States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everybody, welcome. Kathy, you do a roll call when you're ready.
All right,
please.
you got it. Saban. Bartleson. Here. Deskin.
Here.
Bergbauer.
Here.
Galogly.
Here.
McDonald.
Here.
Hugh.
Present.
And Sheehan is absent. We have a quorum.
All right, our police chaplain, Steve Benarsak's here to open us up.
God, I just want to take this time to thank you for our great city. And I thank you that my wife and I can just walk downtown at night or daytime and know that we're safe, how you blessed it with the businesses there. And I thank you for all the people that were there for the Christmas in the Square a couple Saturdays ago. I just ask that you would bless each business in town, that the new businesses coming in. And I'm thankful for each council member here, all the people here who make this city work. Thank you for them. And I ask that you would just bless them, their lives, their family, and just give them the wisdom to make the right decisions to help this city grow and to bless this city. And thank you for that. Our fire personnel and our officers are in relative safety to patrol in this town. And I ask that you keep a hedge of protection around them, their families, and when they're on calls, that you give them wisdom on how to handle things and keep them safe driving around patrolling and the fire personnel going on calls. Amen and amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. All right, me friends. Anything for liaison reports tonight?
I just have something, a little info from the Not-So-Summer Art Series, because they certainly stay busy throughout the year with activities and fun for the city. The Christmas in the Square was Saturday the 25th, and the weather had a great turnout. And apparently the Herald News reported that it was just like home.
I know, I saw that.
Downtown Cookie Walk is this Saturday. 150 guests will visit downtown businesses to collect cookies at each stop. 26 businesses are participating. The downtown window murals, Snowmen on State, are in progress. A map will be posted on the city website when they are complete. So be sure to walk downtown to see them all. And the Roxy Movie Theaters, the events, Polar Express and It's a Wonderful Life, will take place this Saturday the 9th, and both movies are sold out.
Oh, wow.
So also a real quick thing from the Lockport Women's Club, I worked the Christmas Crossroads, first time I ever worked the event live, and the turnout was fabulous. I mean, people come from all over to come to this crossroads, so it was amazing. The Women's Club did a great job. It went really smooth, and thank you everyone that came.
Right on.
Okay, I just wanted to highlight the holiday lights that we are now, for the beautification recognition. We are now full speed ahead. We're going to go until January 8th. It started on December 5th through January 8th. And then at the January 16th meeting, we will then recognize those that have submitted their holiday lights. Those dates may actually change. Usually we do it the first meeting of the year in January. So this is taking a little bit longer than I anticipated, so there might be a change in the dates. But in either case, it'll be in January, that we will be recognizing everyone who decorates their home, their landscaping. We want to see all the beautiful lights that you've done, and please submit your pictures so we can recognize you. Thank you.
Right on. Thanks, Joanne. All right, anybody else? Yeah, what do you got there?
From the police department, Lockport Love Parade is this Saturday, December 9th at the Lockport American Legion. Free breakfast at 8 a.m. Parade starts at 9 a.m. until approximately 11 o'clock a.m. with 9 stops for 9 Lockport families in need. Immediately following the Lockport Love Parade will be Shop with a Cop. That will take place at our Lockport Walmart from approximately 11:30 a.m. until around 1 o'clock p.m. And then finally, I know that Christmas Crossroads was very busy, and thank you for having the officers over there. I saw the squads out front all weekend. That's all for me.
Right on. Thanks, Jonathan.
Welcome.
All right, anything else? All tight? All right, very good. I don't have anything specific, so we can jump into things. So, Rich, you're up first.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of City Council, good evening. As we know, the Lockport Police Department's vehicle replacement plan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mayor,
Committee of the
we're
whole?
doing our,
Oh,
no.
I forgot, we do city councils
Yes,
now.
sorry about that.
Yeah, I fell back into my old ways.
Take two. Practicing.
yeah. Fell back into my old ways, sorry. Oh, yeah, don't watch me, yeah.
Just give me C minus.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
For my excuse, we used to do the other one first.
Sure we did.
Terrible excuse. All right, so we're going to do city council, sorry. So tonight, looking for a motion to have a consent agenda. Second. All right, Joanne and Patrick. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So we're looking for a motion to approve regular city council meeting minutes from November 15th. Our committee of the whole meeting minutes from November 15th. Our property and liability, worker compensation insurance renewals, payroll period ending November 12th, bills through November 27th. There's the annual schedule of meetings for us, planning and zoning, and police, and heritage and architecture. Extension of the municipal cleaning contract. We've got purchase of the body cameras for our police department, quote for the land application for the sludge spreading. We've got water well solutions repair for well 13. Accept the quote for replacement of our 2 polymer units. And then lastly is the declare various vehicles as surplus. So we're looking for that motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Renee and Jonathan, and if we can have a vote, please.
You got it. Saban. Yes. Bartleson.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
And Sheehan is absent. Motion passes.
All right. So Lisa, you are up first tonight. What do you
Yes,
got?
first on the agenda is the 2023 property tax levy, ordinance number 23-038. We're looking to levy $7.8 million on this year's levy. This is the 9th year in the row that the city is lowering its tax rate in accordance with our strategic plan of lowering the tax rate over the next 3 years by 10%. Looking for approval.
Okay. That's, no, good, thank you. Joanne, second? And then Patrick. Any questions, concerns? Okay, then we'll do a roll call, please.
You got it. Saban. Yes. Bartleson.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
And Sheehan is absent. Motion passes.
All right, next, you've got the fiscal budget.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Looking for approval of the fiscal year 2024 budget, ordinance number 23-037. Revenue of $61 million, expenses of $81 million, use of reserves of $20 million. Operating funds are balanced, just using excess reserves to do our capital projects for the next year. Fund balance policy is still intact. We're still carrying the 4 months of reserves that we are required to. So looking for approval.
All right, looking for that motion.
I'll make that motion.
All right, we got Darren and Renee. We have any other questions? All right, roll call, please.
Saban. Yes. Bartleson.
Yes.
Deskin.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
And Sheehan is absent. Motion passes.
All right, next we're looking for a motion to approve some land acquisition. What do you got going on, Ben?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Ordinance 23039 would be approving the purchase of a commercial property in our downtown, 723 South State Street. I would authorize myself and work with our attorney to execute the purchase of this property. I do have a picture of it here. The location is kind of directly across from the Dunkin' Donuts. It's the old Cat Clinic, if you're familiar with that building. It's a small yellow-sided building with the purple awnings today. The backstory on this one, Mayor, is that we looked at this property in the past. We actually budgeted to purchase this earlier in 2023. At about February, we were talking to the property owner. Unbeknownst to us, they actually settled a deal with someone else at a higher price. But that deal fell through, and the owner reached back out to us here just in the last few weeks and said, hey, is the city still interested in it? And, we had an appraisal done back then and had a price, and I said, possibly. We don't have a whole lot of time to debate it with the rest of the year because we actually had budgeted funds to do this year. So it is before you for a decision tonight. We did not have a time or an opportunity to put it on a committee of the whole and wait 2 more weeks. Trying to use our current budgeted dollars. These are just from the general fund. We had $200,000 in the budget for strategic acquisition. This would be for $195, and we'd cover some closing costs, so we would stay under budget. I did talk to the owner. He's willing to accept that price. And really, it's about kind of control in our downtown. This is a nice bookend to the piece. To the north, you've got the Delwood parcel. We can see commercial development and opportunity going up to 7th Street, but probably not much farther than that. So this is kind of an important piece that we could control. Frankly, it's an older building that has some structural support underneath that's not great. So our intent would be to acquire it and potentially demolish it next year. There's some grants available through Will County that might pay for the demolition. And so at this point, we're not planning to do much with it other than acquire it, control it, come back to the council in the future if we need to have it taken down. And then in the future, we could partner with potential sales of the Delwood Tire or any other properties as we continue that way. There is a conversation being had about potential more parking in the downtown, which is always advantageous, but with it kind of straddling the canal there as it goes underneath, it's not going to provide very many spaces without a significant expense, so we'd have to look into that. But again, at this point, we're looking to go ahead and fulfill our budget request from this year to acquire it, and then we can have future discussions about what to do with it or not do with it.
So as far as your recollection, the creek, I know this building straddles it, but looking at this picture right here, like, it's pretty much on the south side of the building, the creek is pretty tight to that side. How far to the north does it go? Like the first door, the second door, like? How much of that building's on land and how much is it?
I'd say at the 25% of the southern part of the building. It's 25% of southern part of the building. This building was something that I asked Mayor Trivedi, what was it, 15 years or so ago to do this when they were tearing up State Street, to go ahead and to refurbish the tunnel underneath. And it is the reason why I'm sure the deal fell through is this is not a structurally sound building, and you don't need to be a structural engineer to see it. There's no way anybody was going to get occupancy with this building. We should have bought it then for $30,000, but we didn't. If we don't buy it, it's going to sit there for the next 50 years.
Is it possible to just ask how much we're buying it for based on
Yeah.
the appraised value?
Yeah, it appraised at 205 and he's accepted 195. If you see the 2 blue lines in here in this kind of aerial where the creek actually navigates under the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot. It goes underground, under the State Street, through some vaults, and then goes pretty much under the cat clinic, and then comes through under the back of the public landing where we started our Sloan pad, and then there's an outlet there that comes into the canal. It's, to say how far west or north or south it is under that building, I'm not entirely sure without walking in and mapping it. But at the end of the day, it does make redevelopment of that actual space difficult. You could put a big parking lot above it, but you're basically building a bridge to put cars on top of, so very expensive. I don't want to overpromise any parking gains here, but with the structure gone and the access to the alley, there could be some cars parked down below there until we come up with something later. But again, this was an opportunity that kind of came up at the last minute, and we'd like to do it. So we're seeking approval for ordinance 23039. Again, these were budgeted funds were intended for this. It's just that we had a last minute opportunity to do it.
Ben, I feel like, and I'm sorry I didn't call you about this earlier. I feel like we're paying way too much for this. I mean, if if he can't get a buyer because there's a river underneath it, even though I read the appraisal, the real estate appraisal, I just can't believe that's what that cost of that building is. It just seems like ridiculous.
I just asked that. I just confirmed, with Renee, that appraised value for an unsound building is unbelievable.
And we're gonna go ahead and just pay him that because he's walking away with a gold mine. Yeah, yeah, and we can't do anything with this property.
I wouldn't say you can't do anything with it. I would consider it to be a little bit cost prohibitive for the city to do anything with it. If you want to wait for the market and see if something happens with it over the next decade, that's fine too. It's probably a six-figure build out inside. When I once looked at it with grandiose ideas that, hey, you can put, Mill Creek Distillery and you can put glass floors in and look, you could do amazing things with money. I'm sure Bob Morris would love to be an architect on that project, but for the city to do that, I don't think it's up to us. If a developer wanted to buy it and redevelop it and do something with it, that would be on them.
But they can't. I mean, they can't. There's a river.
Well, they
It's-
could,
That's
I would just say.
kind
it
of
would
where
be
I'm at
kinda
is that,
cost,
like,
yeah.
so we spend 200,000 on the property. We either tear it down and at
And
at
then
some
it sits
point,
there.
the developer comes and they say, oh, we'd love to build here. We're gonna need some help from the city in getting this creek channelized, or, inside of vaults, and then we're on the hook for another 400,000. And
My best
Anything could
guess of
happen.
what would happen is
so we're
that,
pretty good at supporting people who want to develop.
my best guess is as to what would happen, and I don't have a crystal ball, but it's like if this building were gone, you would have the visible creek valley there up to probably, like Darren says, about the first door. And then the rest of it is property, this land. It'd probably just sit empty, and then, one day Larry Bonhoeffer is gonna sell, the tire, when he retires. And whatever development happens there will probably utilize just the actual land. They're not gonna go over the creek anymore. So I'd say then, if Darren's accurate with 25%, 75% of it would probably be part of a future development off to the side. Not anything that needs money, because it's like, dude, we're not gonna pay money to go over the creek. You just leave it open, an open creek, right? So, that's my best guess of what would happen to this.
We're all guessing at this point. I mean,
Right.
there could be another redevelopment on that end of the town. With this building gone, we could get a grant with the state and put another ped bridge over that creek, and then you have a nice connection to the public landing. I think with the curb appeal here, without this structure here, will show the beauty of the public landing. I just think it's one of those strategic acquisition things that give us some opportunity. Yes, you could wait and see what the regular market does. If I don't know, I'm not an appraiser, so, and I'm not a real estate agent, so I don't know about value.
If we've learned anything, it was about 10 years ago that Steve called me up and he says, hey, what do you think about buying the Dreams building? And my comment was, well, why in heck would we want to do that? His comment was, I want to put windows in it. Okay? And I'm thinking, windows? Well, how much is it going to cost us? And we went through this, and we ended up spending about $325,000. And then we sold it for $10 a couple months later. And I don't know how much crap he took over the years, but I took a lot of, grief over that. And it was money well spent. We got a $3 million building out of it. It spurred the downtown, the renewal of the downtown. And there's no way either of us could have imagined what would have happened when he asked me, what do you think about it?
Building on it though, Derek.
It was a building that had been abandoned at that time for 8 years.
But there was still potential for that building to be totally remodeled, because that's what actually.
Well, that is true. However, we had an owner that was underinsured and would never, ever be able to redevelop that piece of property. So when I read this, I immediately went back to the Dreams building, and I just think this is a good deal for us.
I think it's two different things.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. I'll let you
It's
speak.
definitely a risk. I think you're taking a chance. We could take a chance that someone else wants to do something with it at some point, who knows in the future. I think the real value in it is that if you do want to develop further to the north with those parcels that are contingent to it, we're a lot easier to work with than someone trying to hold out for $300,000, right? So again, I totally get it on face and on paper. I agree, it's probably not worth what we're paying for it, but I don't know if I could put a value on what it could be worth for a larger development to the north and not having to wait another decade or having to pay something else, because we're willing to work with a developer to do something with it. So again, I tried being upfront with that in the memo, that I don't see a future here for the city on this as far as a structure. I think it's about acquiring land that makes it possible to do something else with someone else in the future. When that is, I can't promise you that.
My question is, we just approved the budget. I know you said you're under a time constraint.
this is-
But I'm asking, in our new budget, do we still have $200,000 approved?
We do not. I did not.
We took that out.
anticipate it. We did.
So it
We only
is,
put in $50,000, 50 or 60,000. So that's another part of my urgency was, and I again apologize that we didn't debate this at committee of the whole. It just came up in the last couple of weeks. We did budget in the 2023 budget $200,000 to do this. And for demos and things like that. So next year, we didn't see necessarily, because I thought this was gone, Lisa and I met and talked about, what do you want to do in the downtown? I said, well, I'm not really seeing any strategic things here that I need to do right now, so let's just put in 60,000 for small demos or things. So I didn't put in an extra money. So it's available now in the fund. Doesn't mean the city couldn't do something from reserves, or you have the authority and ability to do certain things with the budget in the future, but again, this was kind of pre-planned. I didn't present it early in this year and tell the narrative and the story then, and unfortunately, it just kind of fell in our lap here. Do we want to do something or not? And so it's available. You know?
All right, so I guess a couple things. Yes, the budget has, this year's budget has the 200,000 in it.
Mhm.
And generally what happens is if we don't spend that, it rolls into general funds. But the idea that like, God, our hands are tied, I'd like to think that as a council, we could say, you know what, we do want to hold on to that $200,000 for property acquisition into the next year and think through this a little bit. I got 2 real estate agents that are like, this is kind of high,
Okay.
right? And the idea that like, we don't have the authority to hold that money for property acquisition, to think through this just a little bit more, is not accurate. I think we don't have to feel pressured to do this immediately. I'd like to hear a little bit more from, the real estate agents on this, and if that's an appropriate price. And I hear Darren's fear that like, bro, this is just gonna deteriorate into crap. But that, we also have the ability to hold the property owner accountable. It's like, no, friend, you can't just let it turn into crap. You're gonna have to keep it up. And if you can't rent it, you can't rent it. And, but it doesn't mean we just allow a guy to just let it turn to crap, and we still hold him accountable like we would any property owner. And we still may be the right move to purchase this, but, that's kind of my view on this. I think it's like, I'd rather just make a decision here as a council to hold that money aside for property acquisition into the next budget year, and then let's think through this just a little bit, because it's unlike the Dreams building. It's not going to get redeveloped to have new income. At best, the property on the north side might go to another development that would do it, that would add value, but for the most part, this will probably add not anything to the tax rolls, just take off the tax rolls.
So can we do that? Can we carry it over?
Yeah, what we'd end up doing is a budget amendment next year if we decided to purchase something that was above and beyond what we budgeted for. So that's not
So
an issue.
what we should probably do is a continuance?
If the council desire, you can do a motion to continue it to January 3rd, or 4th, what's it, or the following
Table it.
January.
Is there any the appraisal you're saying came in at 205. Is there any way that you can go to the guy and say, look, if you really want to get rid of the building, you're way out of the ballpark. I mean, location is one thing, but this is the building that needs to get torn down. It ends up being a flat lot. If you go back to him and say, hey, we'll offer you X number of dollars and
That's
see
the
if he
magic
bites.
number.
It's either that or
I
no,
don't know what you
nothing.
want me to offer. I'd be happy to offer anything you want.
Well, so let me ask you this appraisal,
Mm-hmm.
is this done by the city, or is this done by the owner of the property?
We paid a third-party appraiser.
You did, okay, so it is a third party, okay.
Even though it's a third party, I feel like it's really high.
It really is high, you guys. I don't know where they came in with a price like that for a building that is not stable.
Well,
to have.
let's not,
There's four opinions.
we're making opinions about the structure, and I'm not an architect, and it's completely housing. It had occupancy 4 months ago, right? So I don't want to understate that it's falling in. It's not. Okay, but as a developer coming in, it's not very tidy in there. So
Yeah.
the projection is, and I've had other developers look at it and say, I don't think I want to drop $100,000 to fix the inside, and then don't know what needs to be shored up underneath or not. That was actually permitted by IDOT, and I can tell you to redo that permit or change anything structurally underneath over that canal and DNR and everything else, permitting would be very expensive. So it alludes itself to a cost prohibitive rebuild. Not that it can't be done. There are eccentric people that want to spend money and do something amazing. Again, market value and appraisals, I have to look to a certified appraiser. We could get another certified appraisal and see what they say. They may come in at 185. I don't know. We can all make theories of like, well, it's just useless, so he should just cut his price by 100,000. I'm happy to ask him, but I don't think he's going to take that. So what's the number that you would be willing to acquire it for?
So I think, well, obviously having this conversation here.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It's like, hey,
So we'll continue it.
but I think,
Right now, it's generating taxes, correct?
yeah, it's just some
Taxes?
property tax.
Okay, so if we demolish that, if we purchase that property, we demolish it, there's no taxes there.
If you
If we
purchase
purchased
it, there's
there
no
would be no
taxes.
taxes,
Yeah.
period,
Just by
regardless of
purchasing
whether or
it.
not
Demolish it
it's
or not.
occupied, yeah.
We don't pay
If
taxes.
we purchase.
Like, once we own it.
Right, that's what she's saying, that's what she's saying.
Now it's generating taxes because the owner.
Well, the owner could always ask for assessment that's lower due to vacancy. And people do get lower assessed value due to vacancy.
But that's on him, though.
Yes, yes, yep.
To do that.
And it's still a positive cash flow to the city. I think, in fairness, I think Ben's concerns are like, oh, well, what if, this guy just gets desperate and leases it to something terrible?
Yeah.
I mean, we have some controls over like because it's downtown commercial, there's some controls that council has over like, certain things that, probably would come across as seedy, but, so there is some protections on that, but, it may get leased to, but, I mean, that's, I think was some of Ben's concerns, right? Is maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
And the
like,
reason I went to 195 was we offered 190 before, and we were outbidded just 9 months ago. So I raised the bid $5,000 and
I
didn't
think,
have a current.
that guy probably, after he dug in and looked at the building, he's like, yeah, this is worth 190. so.
And that's what we have to keep in mind, is that deal did not go through.
All right, so I guess, are we
So-
comfortable with this? If we do a continuance, we don't want to make a decision, and instead of the pressure, and I know Ben was feeling this pressure, about like, oh my gosh, we gotta get done by the end of there. We do budget amendment at the next meeting to hold the $200K aside for property acquisition. So if we can think through this a little bit more, and if we don't do it, fine. If we do it and decide 195 is the right number, then so be it. But at least we won't feel the pressure about it, and I think we can.
So now that I understand what she's proposing with the budget, you can take almost as long as you want next year, because you don't need to do a budget amendment at the beginning. You can do a budget amendment at the end of next year, so.
Okay, well, I just don't want to see the 200,000, like,
I
you
was a
find that
little
you
eager
can't utilize.
to have this conversation. Sure, I mean, the buyer will wait until we want to pay.
I
so.
have a question for the real estate agents, is,
You're now the real estate agent.
no, I'm.
You want an appraisal?
It's like-
Is, can you get an appraisal for the land underneath it, just the land? Because if you can't do anything with it.
So the appraisal should reflect the land, what the value of the land is, and what the potential of the building is, and that's how they, and then, of course, any comps that have
Yeah,
actually sold.
that's not
But
what
if
she's
you-
asking for, like, I want
the landowner.
you,
But
I
how
wanna
do
know
you
what the-
appraise it? Because
Well, here,
is
I'm-
it value
I'm-
commercial? Are you gonna
give-
build
give me-
something out?
give me
Right.
30 more seconds.
30
I'll tell you
seconds,
what
go.
it is.
Aaron loves doing
Sounds
that.
like 3 minutes.
Start the clock.
So in the meantime, I'm gonna make a motion to continue this discussion to the, was it January 3rd? The first one? January 3rd Committee of the Whole meeting.
I second that.
Third.
January 3rd for the Committee of the Whole agenda, is that correct?
Well, we just approved the schedule. Let's go look.
It's the 3rd, which would then go to council on the 17th if you wanted to proceed at that time, sir. That would be the fastest we would move it with that motion, which is fine. Now that I understand the money doesn't go away, we're good. I should have asked that before I got here, I guess.
I know we do have some appraisals on some vacant lots in and around that
Mm-hmm.
area. I've got one on the lot that
Ben, the one question I had is if the river flows underneath that building, I remember when he opened up State Street, and I was amazed
No, there's only one
of the
motion, no second.
architecture that was used to create that flowage. Who's responsible for that underneath that property?
So, great question. Underneath, I'm not sure it would be us or typically the DNR.
So my recollection from that time period was, it's nobody.
And if it don't flow, it don't flow?
Where I was
I
going, like
got
a charity.
the state of
We would
Illinois
likely
said
engage it
it
because
wasn't
we care.
theirs. The Lockport said it wasn't theirs, and so it was like, two people pointing at each other, and nothing got solved, and for some reason, the GIS isn't loading, so I can't give you that information.
We would typically get involved because we wouldn't want anything bad to happen. We would be the responsible party. In theory, whether we legally were responsible or not is a whole other question. There are other outfalls. This leads to an outfall that's fallen apart underneath the Sloan Building to I&M Canal. We have a plan and some engineering going on right now to fix those outfalls, and we're hoping to get some grant money from the DCO to help pay for it. So this could certainly be part of that. Again, I think it's all about value, right? At this point, I don't think anyone's not thinking the way I was in regards to a strategic acquisition. It's like, what do we really want to value in getting it? Is it really worth the structure? I would agree, probably not. But it's funny what owners may feel the value of their buildings are, and that's the challenge. You have an opportunity to acquire it now for $195. We can negotiate better. He might accept $175. He might accept $100. He might say, I'll just wait and see for 10 years, and that's okay too. So this is a true debate.
So this is the building. So the land is appraised, this is the 20.
Assessed.
Assessed.
Land is assessed at $13,513, a building at $31,447, total EAV of $44,960, with a market value of $134,893.
On what?
134.
$134,893.
I would say it's been underappraised for decades, as usual.
Yeah.
Well, most things are.
That's all.
The person
underappraised
that did the
down in
appraisal,
downtown area.
the person that did the appraisal of property, are they assessing the structural stuff underneath?
I don't think they're structural, but, they're,
I mean, you look at
they
the-
gave a market value appraisal based on other comps for similar buildings in similar situations. I don't know how many.
And they're
buildings
not
are-
licensed to do that.
They are licensed, these are licensed
These are
appraisals.
licensed certified
Structural
appraisals.
engineers.
Well, no,
They're not
I mean,
structural
Okay, that's the only
I
engineers.
don't know
question
how
I'm
many
asking
buildings they
is-
use as
Yeah.
comps that were
Right.
hovering
Yeah.
Well,
rivers, but.
appraisers are not required to get structural engineers to go
That's upon
and-
the buyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the buyer, yeah.
for inspection.
So here's the bottom line.
All right.
Darren made a motion to do continuance. I think Renee actually seconded it. I think.
No,
was it
Christina.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Which is, I appreciate it. I don't like feeling pressured into making a $200,000 decision. When we have control of the budget, we could say, we're just gonna hold this for our next budget and let's think through it. It may be worth $195 when we're all said and done, but, so, I'd like to vote on the motion that's on the floor to do a continuance into the next meeting at Committee of the Whole. So, can we do a roll call for that? Yes, to do a continuance would be,
Do we have to pick a date?
yeah.
The motion was to continue this matter
I
to
want the
January
17th.
3rd, Committee of the
I'm gonna be
Whole
on cruise
agenda.
on the 3rd.
And there was a second.
Okay. So,
Radio, man.
17th?
That's fine, it's just committee of the whole, but that's,
Do you have a motion on the floor?
I will make an amendment to my motion. You have to do this, we have to do it
yeah,
right.
you gotta do right.
Yeah.
I will make an amendment to my motion to continue this to the January
17th?
17th.
Committee of the Whole meeting.
And the seconder would have to accept that. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so can we do a roll call on that, Kathy, please, when you, after you get all that typed in?
I got it. All right. Saban. Sure. Bartleson.
Yes?
Yes, okay, thank you. Deskin.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yep.
And Sheehan is absent. Motion passes.
Thank you, and I apologize for the unprepared item.
No, your passion is to do the right thing, and we appreciate that. Okay, friends, thank you. Next is AT1, what do you got, Sonny?
It's the third amended IGA regarding the Lockport Township Sanitary District and Bonnie Brae. We discussed this at the last meeting to reflect the change in the water and wastewater usage rates. We already have Bonnie Brae, who already signed that agreement, and we're just waiting for Lockport Heights Sanitary District to do that, but it's highly anticipated they'll.
Both boards
approve it, yeah.
apparently approved it at their meetings, we're just waiting to get signatures.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to approve Resolution 23-104.
So moved.
Jonathan and Renee. And if there's no further discussion, we'll do a roll call.
You got it. Saban.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes?
Deskin.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
And Sheehan is absent. Motion passes.
All right, and lastly, we're looking for a motion to approve Resolution 23-112, which was being able to deputize our police officers to help with with them looking over the Lincoln Way School. Is there anything, so I'll do a motion first.
There's a revised.
Yeah, there's a revised version of the MOU that we have negotiated with Will County regarding the deputizing our officers. They are required, the Will County is requiring that our officers who are deputized be certified as a school resource officer. We have 2 officers who are certified, and they'll be deputized once the city council approves this proposal, and then the Will County Board will have it presented at their special meeting tomorrow night, or tomorrow morning.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve.
Real quick, I didn't see
Actually,
a,
Jason, or Jonathan, you're supposed to approve it. Doesn't mean you're approving it. That just means we're allowed to discuss it, and then we do discussion. So, looking
So
for a
moved.
motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, so it's JR,
I'll second.
and second by Christina.
Should have done
Questions, concerns,
yeah.
comments? Yes.
I didn't see in the document, and it may have been revised because I haven't been through this one. It mentions the facility. My concern was, should one of our officers leave the building in service of their duties?
So the facility includes ground.
Includes grounds? Okay.
Grounds, so.
I didn't see it defined, and I just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
And if there's any dispute regarding whether or not they have authority, the primary law enforcement agency will still be Will County. It's not like they'll be,
Right.
without police, protection.
Rich and I are going to attend the Will County Board meeting tomorrow and see if they have any other issues.
All right. Any other questions? And we'll do roll call, please.
You got it. Saban.
Yes.
Bartleson.
Yes?
Deskin.
Yes.
Bergbauer.
Yes.
Galogly.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
Sheehan is absent. Motion passes.
Okay, my friends, thank you. Any open floor comments? Anybody got anything? All good? All right, then we're looking for a motion to adjourn, city council.
So moved.
It sounds like Renee over there, and who else was? Joanne? All right.
Who was it, second?
Joanne.
Thank you, just making sure. Okay?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So just let us know when you're ready, Kathy, and we'll.
You got it. All right. All right, roll call. Saban. Bartleson.
Here.
Deskin.
Here.
Bergbauer.
Here.
Galogly.
Here.
McDonald.
Here?
Pugh.
Present.
And Sheehan is absent. We have a quorum.
Okay. Chief, what do you got?
Thanks again, Mayor. As we know, the Lockport Police Department's vehicle replacement plan was designed to keep up with the fleet and the needs of the agency, providing safe, well-functioning emergency vehicles to not only conduct patrols within the city, but to respond to emergency calls for service as well. So tonight, I'd be asking City Council's consideration to allow for the purchase of 4 emergency vehicles, utilizing a combination of budgeted capital funds and federal seizure funds. In past years, we were able to place orders for these vehicles locally at Curry Motors in Frankfurt with little to no issue. However, due to the shortage of these vehicles, that was not the case in 2022 or 2023. Over that two-year period, we purchased a total of 6 vehicles. Of those vehicles, we picked up 5 of those in Indiana, most of which were actually from Bloomington, which is a 3.5-hour drive for us to go down there and pick it up, 3.5-hour drive back. The 6th vehicle we placed into a patrol. We took an admin vehicle, and we converted it over to a patrol vehicle, and then what we did was we purchased a civilian vehicle, and we assigned it to admin. So we're doing all these things to try to keep up the fleet because of the shortage of these vehicles on the lot. The issue with us purchasing from the dealership lot, because we're not able to order these vehicles, is that we're spending a lot of time trying to find the vehicles, we're spending a lot of time traveling to pick up the vehicles, and we're paying overinflated sticker prices for these vehicles as well. Several months ago, I had my staff still reach out to Ford inquiring about placing an order for 2024. They said they weren't taking orders because there's a new redesign for 2025, which again puts us back in the position of trying to find cars and lots probably in other states. Because of this, I had my staff look into the Dodge Durango police-rated vehicle. We reached out for quotes at 3 dealerships. It was Castle of Naperville, Tyson in Shorewood, and Bettenhausen in Orland Park. Once the quotes came back, we learned that Bettenhausen was able to provide the best price for the vehicle at a cost of $42,612.26 per unit, which is approximately $5,000 to $7,000 actually, less than per vehicle than what we've been charged for the Ford Explorers in both 2022 and 2023. Bettenhausen also ensured if purchased through them, we would receive the vehicles within the first several months of the year. So because Dodge is able to manufacture these vehicles for us in 2024 at a lower price point per unit and ensure that we actually receive the vehicles in the first several months of the year without having to travel a great distance to pick up the vehicles, take possession, or to actually have the vehicles serviced at a later date if necessary, my recommendation is that we look to purchase the Dodge Durango police-rated SUV in 2024. So tonight I'm asking for City Council's approval to purchase 4 Dodge Durango police-rated SUVs through Bettenhausen, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, utilizing budgeted capital funds in the amount of $85,224.52 for 2 of those emergency vehicles, and federal seizure funds in an equal amount of $85,224.52 for the other 2 emergency vehicles for a total not to exceed $175,000, and that would be under Resolution 23-111.
All right, questions, concerns?
I have a question. Go figure. So in the past, we had Ford Explorers. You said that Ford is not making that vehicle, so then you went to Dodge.
So last year we ran into an issue where they didn't even turn over for the police production line. They kept the civilian line running. So what's happening is everybody's struggling to find the Fords on the lot, right? We're paying a lot for these Fords. They're $47,800, $49,000. When I said let's go ahead and look at the Dodges, we found that we can get them for $42,000 and some change. And they're still manufacturing them, and they're going to actually if we place the order January 2024, we'll get the vehicles, versus spending the entire year searching searching dealership lots to see if the vehicles are there. So yeah, I thought it was a good idea to take a look at these pursuit-rated Dodge Durangos. Other agencies have used them. I think it's a good time. It's only 4 of them. We can get them. They're cheaper. And I think it also helps that we have a Dodge dealership coming to town as well. So I think it's a win at this time to take that look at this option.
When a consumer goes out and buys a car, they look at all the manufacturers and they choose which one has their needs. the difference between the Ford and the Dodge, I mean, they all have some set of requirements that they have to do, you know, performance-wise. They're both pretty comparable?
So yeah, that's what we did. So we already know what options we're looking for, what type of performance we're looking for in these vehicles, so that way they will last us for, you figure we have in the fleet, we have a total of maybe 46 vehicles in the fleet.
Wow.
And we usually purchase 4 vehicles per year to keep up with the fleet. Last 2 years, we did 3. We're still okay with that. But to ensure that we keep up with the fleet, I think, again, making this move to the Dodge is a good idea. But we do have a list of what we needed out of Ford, and we just went ahead and said, this is what we get out of Ford, what can you do for us? And they actually they'll build this car based off of what we usually get from Ford. Same with the equipment. We'd go to the Fleet Safety, I think is a company that we use. We sit there and say, here's the list that we use for Ford for equipment. They'll just go ahead and plug it in for the Dodge instead. So it's really going to be kind of a simple transition for us. I did reach out to our city mechanic. How difficult is it going to be to work on the Dodge versus a Ford? He said absolutely no issue for him at all. So I did that as well. So I think it's a savings. I think it's a good time to try the Dodge, and I think we'll be able to get the vehicles because really we spent, I think the last vehicle we got last year wasn't until maybe October. No, about October of this year, but we were trying to get them. We talked to the dealerships. Like this time in 2022, we talked to dealerships, and it wasn't until we just got lucky to get that third one. The only reason we got the third one this year was because another police department backed out on the purchase of the vehicle. Yeah.
All right, Ben, this is for you. Ready? Just got a cap motor, 440 cubic inch plant. It's got cap tires, cap shocks, cap suspension. Where's it from? Nice. All right. Yes. It's a model made before catalytic converters. Yep. Any other questions on it? All right, we good with consent? All right, thank you. Thanks, Rich.
That's good.
Okay, CD1, facade grant request for 1,000 South State.
Thank you, Mayor. This is related to Resolution 23-114. On August 17, 2022, the council approved a grant request in the amount of $222,858.63 for the elevator, repair and removal of fire damage on the 3rd floor and roof, and the 2-story windows currently installed. Over the past year, the applicant has continued to make progress on the building and is at a point currently where they are ready to advance the next phases of the exterior work, some of which has been started given the time of year and some of which remain in the bidding stage. To that end, the applicant is requesting council's consideration of a grant request totaling $223,155.67 that covers masonry tuck pointing, repair and new stone, exterior lighting, exterior painting on the front facade, exterior painting on the 1950s brick, exterior siding on the rear face of the 1950s addition, exterior steps along State Street, metalwork restoration and installation along State Street, new front doors, handrails along State Street, the cornice, window lintels, and the glass frame covers over the 50s edition windows. These items were approved by the H&A previously as a part of their original project approvals. All of these items are eligible under the program as a 50-50 split of the bid, with the applicant funding 50% and the city funding 50%. However, the total exceeds the maximum amount allowable in the grant, which requires city council approval. Contractor estimates, if any of you read all 4,000 attachments that I put with this memo, were in the listing on the agenda. In addition to the facade grant, the applicant has requested a code compliance grant for the sprinkler system and the fire alarm. Maximum for that grant is $5,000 and $15,000 for the sprinklers. Both the application for that and the bids were attached as well. The requested amount, as I said before, exceeds the budgeted allocation for a facade grant and code compliance grant in the CED budget. Hence, the funding for this amendment request would be drawn from the general video gaming funds allocated to downtown projects. The current fund balance is $794,000, with annual revenues of approximately $350,000 beginning in January. If approved, the total grant funds supplied for the project would be $446,014.30. In addition to the Norton Building and the current Volts Embers Building, the Norton Opera House renovation at 1000 South State is one of the largest renovation and most prominent projects in the city's downtown history. Given that heightened level of investment and prominence, staff believes that the initial investment is consistent with the level of incentive offered to the Volts renovation and the more recent 923 State Street new development, and is supportive of the amended grant request. We believe that the items being requested are consistent with the guidelines of the grant program and are justifiable in relation to the eligible improvements. Market fluctuations in interest rates and construction pricing, which we have all seen, have contributed to the project's financial gap as shown in the budget from 2020 to the actual cost from 2023, shown in the spreadsheet that was also attached to the agenda item. In particular, because of the need to bid the work out over time, given contractors' unwillingness to hold bids for longer than 30 to 60 days. Recommendation is to place Resolution 23-114 on City Council for action and/or consent. The applicants are in the audience. If you have any questions about the project, they'd be happy to answer them. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
I would just start off by, it's an amazing project to date. I mean, you guys have done spectacular work. It's really fun to see it play out. It's just, I just wanted to say that. But what are the thoughts, concerns about the grant request?
My concern is, and I'm sorry for this, Lance, but can you dumb down the email that you sent all of us?
Sure.
Because I don't understand what you're saying.
So because the property is in the TIF district, it will generate funds into the TIF district once it has an occupancy permit. So what was on the sheet that I had sent out, which was a spreadsheet that basically analyzed the tax value of it, is the top line is the I've got some copies that I can send out to everybody if you don't have it in front of you.
Oh.
The assessed building value, the current value of its assessment is $248,055. The TIF value that was set in 2009 when the TIF was started and established was $442,986, meaning because the current value is below what it was assessed at, there are $0 going into the tax rolls as it stands right now. The new value would obviously, in the current value, stay the same. However, once the renovations are done and the assessments are completed, if we estimate $3.2 million in what it would be valued at by the assessor, the EAV would equal $919,000, roughly. And with our current tax rate within the TIF district of 0.09, you would end up generating annual TIF revenue to the city of $84,602.65. So if we assume that the total value of the grants that would be approved for the project, including the current request, is $446,014. That equals, when you take $446,000 divided by $84,600, the payback via the TIF would be 5.3 years. So in essence, this is one of those very similar to kind of the conversation we had about 923 State Street, where because of the investment made, we get dollars back because of it.
I don't understand the second paragraph.
Which second paragraph?
In your email, all
Oh.
items requested are facade grant eligible.
Yes. So our facade grant has a series of eligible items that are applicable, whether it's somebody that wants to replace a window, somebody that wants to repaint their building, somebody that wants to do metal restoration. All of those things are grant eligible items. Awnings, all the things that you have approved in the past, all of the items that they are requesting are grant eligible. They fall under that list. This doesn't include any HVAC on the inside. It doesn't include plumbing. It doesn't include new flooring, bathrooms, stairs, any of those types of things.
Did we make a mistake then, financing the elevators?
That was a specialty issue. That was separate from, that came along with fire damage. Fire damage wouldn't typically be approved as a facade grant. Both of those came from TIF funds.
Okay, and then I guess I should read what I don't understand instead of you having to go through this. I apologize. The only difference between a normal grant and this one is the amount exceeds the maximum of 50,000.
Correct.
We do allow applicants to reapply for other parts of their project so long as items are an eligible cost.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that this could be done piecemeal?
So let's take an example, like when Ron Cornell redid the stucco on the facade and he was approved for a grant for that. If he wanted to repair the stairs that are on the side of his building that are in desperate need of repair, he could reapply for a
Don't you have
second
to
facade grant.
reapply every 10 years?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the changes that we made in 2020, when we redid the grant, was we allowed for council to be able to have the ability to approve a grant amount larger than 50,000. And we also stripped out the, I think it was a promissory note that everybody had to sign saying that you were going to stay in the building for 5 years and these other things. The goal of the facade grant program is not to guarantee occupancy, it's to improve the exteriors of our buildings so that our downtown becomes aesthetically better than it was before.
I have a whole slew of questions, so
Sure.
I'll start with the first one. The thing you just passed out to us, you made an assumption that the EAV value is going to go from 82,000 to 919,000 after occupancy. It's my understanding now that a lot of the buildings that have been renovated on State Street have not had that gigantic leap in assessment, whereas the assessor has been really slow to bring that value up. What guarantees that after this building opens, the assessor will take it from 84 to 200 or 900 and almost $1 million assessed value?
I can't guarantee anything because it's a different agency. But what I can tell you is when 1016 was constructed and finished up and they got their occupancy, their EAV basically went from $0 to, I think it was 450, which equaled the value of the building there. The Stagecoach building, although it hasn't gone up quite as much as we may have expected, it also went up in assessed value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I would say with the amount that we put there in the spreadsheet, it showed that the new estimated cost of the renovation is $3.6 million.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add the $258,000 that it's currently worth, you're at about 3.8 million, 3.9. I chose 3.2 as a discount on that total cost. Am I saying that that's the number? I don't know, but I wanted to give it to you an estimate. If it's $3 million, then we can adjust that number to say 75. If it's $2.5 million, you can say it's 50. The point being is that over the life of the TIF, funds will reimburse, even though it's in two separate buckets, the cost of what the additional incentive request is. Whether it's $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year, $80,000 a year, $90,000 a year, at some point over time, that will be fully then reimbursed.
Okay. Bob, you might want to come up to the podium for these next few.
Hey, Darren, you probably know this off the top of your head. What is the Embers building appraising for these days, or assessed value?
I
stumped him.
Taxes, so taxes are about
50,000, yeah.
Hi, Bob, welcome.
Hi.
I got a question for you. When did you first start the renovation of the Opera House? How many?
I had been talking with John Graves before the fire, so probably a year before the fire.
When did reconstruction start? Maybe more specific.
That was, the sale of the property was complete in March of '22, and we got a demolition permit within a day of the sale of the property.
So that was in 2020?
March of 2022.
2022, okay. Your estimate went from 2.2 mil when you first started out on this adventure, and now it's 3.6 million?
Correct.
There's a lot of items in your, I suspect we got this spreadsheet from you?
Yes.
Lance?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably a lot of that information, all that information came from me. I think
Yes.
I think Lance might have reformatted some of it.
So, and again, I'm just picking things out of here. So we gave you, as part of the last go-around, money to fix the elevator, $99,000. And that estimate, or the bid to get it fixed was 210. So out of your pocket, that paid out $111,000, if you do the math, right? The elevator was estimated at $210,000. We gave you 99 of that.
There's probably some different things going on there. One, the elevator cost from the elevator manufacturer is one thing. When I gave that initial estimate, it wasn't just the cost of, say, an elevator from Otis. It also included the shaft, all of the roof work that was involved in that. So the total cost of everything that was involved in the elevator in that estimate probably is still $200,000.
Okay.
I would say if the
And
bid.
it's actually with the excavation work that had to happen in the stone, I'm guessing it was way above that number. So
If the bid was 210 or the estimate was 200, it would still fit within the 50/50 match that we would typically do?
Yeah, I'm just going down the road of what the costs are and what we gave the money for.
Sure.
We came and visited you one day, and we went through the facility, and it's going to turn out to be a very, very nice facility. But you had mentioned that part of your indigestion was you had to redo the HVAC system, which was an unexpected expense.
It wasn't, it was unexpected. I mean,
Well, it was going to be more monies than you thought it was going to be, so.
Correct.
It was going to be in addition to
In
that.
the course of the
Okay.
time that we were working on the building, the federal government totally revamped the environmental requirements for all HVAC systems. And all of the HVAC manufacturers had to retool their whole lines. And the cost of HVAC systems literally doubled, and in many cases more than doubled, in the time from when that HVAC estimate was made and when they actually had to purchase the building. The HVAC systems for Embers came in at around $150,000. It's about the same size building as we've got, and ours is $380,000. That's mostly reflected in new government regulations and the costs of HVAC systems that ensued because of those regulations.
Okay.
So let me understand. So what, you guys aren't asking for money to offset the HVAC systems.
No.
What you're doing is you're saying, geez, money had allotted to do for facade and all this other stuff, we had to put it to the HVAC system. So now that what you're coming is asking for help on that facade, and this is why it's a facade grant. So
Well, I would kind of not describe it that way. I would say, just like any other property owner, if they do a first phase of a building and they have eligible facade grant items, let's just say the facade grant in phase one costs $40,000 and we match 20, like we would anywhere else. Let's say in phase two, they wanted to redo the windows on the second floor and add a new cornice and paint the exterior. Let's say that one was $60,000 and we matched $30,000. There's no difference between that example and what is happening here, because they're all eligible facade grant items. If this was a $100,000 project and we were requesting $50,000, it would be the exact same thing on a different building, any other way. So I just want to clarify that the only difference, I think, as Christina had mentioned before, everything is facade grant eligible. It's just simply a larger amount than what would normally be applicable to the grant program.
right, and we came up with a number once upon a time. The 50 is a bit arbitrary in a way, but it's like we had to come up with a number, so we used 50. Obviously, this building is a lot bigger. Got a lot more going on, so this is why they're asking, can we do more for this particular project? Very unusual. The last big reconstruction probably on State Street that I can think of, so.
Well, it's interesting because historically, the facade grant, you know, if you remember some of the charts that I had showed as far as what was spent in 2006, 07, 08, you know, they were spending about $12,000 a year for the entire program, all year.
Right.
And they were mostly awnings and somebody wanted to paint something or something like that. We're now at a phase in downtown where people are making significant investments because they are seeing returns on those investments with whether it's the lease rate or other things. And so we still offer the facade grant, but the numbers, as you've all seen over the past years, whether it was Rock and Mule or the Stagecoach building or the Nick and Ivy's building or any of these types of things are getting more, and the number of projects are getting more as well.
And I think too, to expand on that, is that when we were doing $12,000 for a new awning, it really wasn't changing the EAV of a building.
Right.
These are radically changing the EAV of the building, so there's return on it.
Right. We would make
If you'll
$1
let
a
me
year.
crunch some numbers for you. I have their 5-year tax history here up in front of me, and I know if we get it on the screen, it'd be great. If not, that's fine. Prior to the fire,
Which building are we talking about, Darren?
1,000 State.
Okay, same building.
Okay, so prior to the fire, it had an EAV of $152,725. So you multiply that by 3.
You want to wait for them?
Yeah, okay.
It'll take a second to load. I don't know why Google's not working. There it is.
I could probably come over there and use the cursor and probably be easier.
That's a good idea.
Now we're got to do an upgrade.
If I could, sorry.
This is what I do all day.
No, this is what I do all day.
Okay, let's go back to the last screen. Shoot. I don't need no finance person here. Okay, we gotta go back to the last screen here. So, to give you an idea, you know, back in 2008, when they put together the TIF, every property within the TIF was evaluated, and they came up with a TIF base value. So if we look at this number here, TIF base value, $147,660, okay? And so that was 1/3 of the assessed value at that time. We've seen a decrease since the fire. So we can go ahead and look at a 5-year tax history, and we can go ahead and see, come on. So 5-year tax history. So we see here the net EAV for the 4 years prior, $152,725. We had a TIF base value of $147,660. So what we do is you take the EAV at that time, subtract out the TIF base, 147. So that was about $7,000. Okay. $7,000, you multiply that by the tax rate of last year. So the tax rate of last year is 9.2059. And so you come up with a number, whatever that number is. And then you multiply that number by 72%, which is the city's portion, and you come up with that number. So that's, I don't know what that number is, but we'll say it was like $6,200. Okay, so that was $6,200 that we had available to do this, okay? So using this same thing, so with the TIF base value, so I sat down there during the meeting, and so I used $3,617,923 because that's what's on the Orbis sheet on the second page, okay? For a total EAV, a total assessed value of $3,617,723, multiply that by 33%, which is the EAV, for $1,193,914. A little bit higher than the 3.2 million, but that's the number that I had. So you take that 1,193,000, subtract out 147,000, and you come up with $1,046,255. That's the TIF, tax incremental finance area, okay? You multiply that by 9.2059, and so the taxes that we would have received had it been developed for the TIF was $96,317.15. So multiply that by 72%, because 28% goes to the other taxing bodies, for a grand total of $69,348.35, had it been built out today and it assessed at $3.6 million. So all I did was take $222,858 divided by $69,348, and we get our money back in 3.21 years.
Okay.
And we have. Occupancy, okay.
I guess maybe a couple questions. Darren.
Occupancy is circa 2025. The TIF goes to 2033? 2032, so you take 69,348, multiply it by 7.
And if it appraises for half of that, it just gets paid back in 6 years instead of 3.
Sure.
Or whatever.
I think the bottom
We're gonna
line is
get our money
eventually
back.
the money comes.
We're gonna get our money back.
That's fine.
And
Do you guys have an estimate about, like, thank you, Darren, for your, all your, I think the only guy following it was Pat. But,
Amen.
would you guys have an, estimate, like, when you guys think occupancy, what you're shooting for? Yeah.
For business.
Okay, so you guys are shooting for June. Does occupancy take place when there's a tenant, or does occupancy take place when it's been approved for occupancy?
Been approved for occupancy.
Okay, okay.
Can I ask a general question? The construction that you're doing down there, I mean, sorry. For the folks at home. So the construction that you're doing down there, do you have like a traditional construction loan that you're running along with the project? Or how are you funding everything, or are you just?
So those money actually is coming from my parents in law from overseas. So they sold the business, and a lot of money coming back from them. When we started the project, we were thinking about X amount of the money, but now we're running to all those bigger problems. Like Bob said, HVAC, we got a bid for that much money, and then triple. You know, we even got a bid for $800,000 for the HVAC, which one we did not even submit probably. But so basically, it's coming back from overseas. Ramona's, his family, he had a loan as well. We're partners.
Okay.
So
They're starting to get a little concerned too about where the money's going, so if they're asking for help.
When we were thinking about finishing the building, we were thinking about $2.5 million, and we were thinking, yes, we will do it. You know, but now everything is going up, and we didn't want to cheat it, you know, on the masonry, on all those details. We were trying to do, okay, it's our baby, we want to do right. You know, we're not going to cut the corners, whatever is going to happen. Instead of digging the 2.5 feet, okay, we're already there, 3 feet, you know, whatever. So. And that's why everything, all those details, cornices, windows, everything adds up.
And you know what, I'll give you an observation. That happened a little bit on the Embers building. It's a wonderful building, it's a huge blessing. But that cornice does not look like the way it was supposed to look. It's a lot simpler than the way, and that was because, like everything, costs are going up, problems are happening, so they ended up dumbing down that cornice a lot, actually. And I think what Jed is saying is like, they don't want to do that. They want to make this look.
No, I agree. So right now, you're saying you think you're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony in May of next
We
year?
were thinking about the April, but I don't want to promise you something. Because
No, I get it.
but
Okay.
that's May, because that's the when wedding season starts.
Oh, absolutely.
We wanna get all those weddings inside that building. We wanna get, you know, ballroom place open. We're talking with the potential tenants. Even tomorrow we'll have a meeting, like at 9 a.m., and we're trying to find somebody who is right for the city of Lockport, you know, who.
So, having said that, and right now we're looking at, you know, day one, you guys were all excited, you know, 2.2 million, we can do this. Today it's 3.6. You're coming to us for
the small help.
For a little help, I get that. If you turn around and look at your other investors, you say, okay, I don't know what your balance is right now in terms of what you paid out of pocket and what you have left. Are your reserves enough right now to whereas you won't be coming to us in, 4 months from now saying, you know what, we had a little hiccup here?
We're not planning. We're not planning, honestly. This is because we already have everything scheduled. I think all those bids there, all contractors there, no surprises for us,
You know what the surprises are already.
Yeah, because we already know that, heating guy says $160,000 and then nobody did anything, and then one guy jumps with the $800,000 and we're thinking, what the? But, and then 360, whatever, I'm not sure. Whatever we wrote for the HVAC. 380, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But now that you guys, seems like now that you could see the finish line,
Yes.
then you're not worried about bids expiring because it's so that's where your confidence is coming
Matter of
from.
fact, today it's very, very good day because we're taking the second floor. So basically, we're seeing the all huge, nice ceiling with the trusses, with everything. More than welcome, come and see the building. So 2 more days and we're gonna have a huge open space.
Cool.
And sprinklers is there. So the 3rd floor is already finished. They're waiting for an elevator guy pushing us, calling us, hey, 1 week, we're not ready for him yet. That's why we're a little bit, because electric people working as well, putting the panels on, it's happening. It's happening, so.
In time, since most of the city council members got tours of the building, the inside of the building looks dramatically different than when you got into it.
Yeah, you still had a
The
second and third
trusses,
floor there.
Steel
yeah.
trusses of all the wood trusses have been reinforced with steel. They look dramatically better.
Oh.
It looks amazing. Cool. The
Well, I mean,
ductwork is.
let me just say this. I think that before any of us took office, previous council set this facade grant up to redevelop downtown. And it's done its job. That's what it was for. That was the vision. I think if they were all sitting here today and saw this and what the money's being used for, I think they've been thrilled that, wow, what we did is paying off. And I think that, this is what the money's for. With the money's there, it's got return, unlike my skepticism with the other building, which is just never gonna have any returns. This has return. And even with Darren math, right, we could see the return.
Well,
So
this is going to be, we're gonna fund this from video gaming revenue. We're not gonna fund it via TIF.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, so, give you all an idea, how much has our video gaming revenue been in 2023? That answer through October was $284,377. We're averaging about $28,000 a month, so let's just make the math easy. Add another 60,000, we're up to about 350,000, which is what we budget, okay? So this is money, the money that he's asking for, we are going to recover that in 9 months. The first 9 months of 2024, plus if he goes ahead and gets occupancy circa May, June, okay? So we're gonna get the taxes prorated for 6 months and then the full assessment in 2025.
I don't think is it opening up in 2024 next year?
Okay, so, I mean, this is collateralized. It's, the collateral is video gaming revenue, which we know we're gonna get, and then video gaming revenue, which we can use, I mean, the TIF money, which we can use for other projects downtown, because he's not asking for that. And I think on 923 State, there was a split there too. The thing is, this, we're not funding this out of property tax. We're funding it out of a sin tax, which is the video gaming revenue, and we know we're gonna get that back. And then we're gonna have 5 or 6 machines at Lenny's opening, Lenny's, no, not Lenny's, Thornton's opening up here soon, you know, so that's gonna be an extra, you know, $50,000 a year from them. It's gonna cover. We're not gonna, there's not gonna be any deficit spending here. There's not gonna be any, I just think it's a good idea.
I just have one other question. There's a line item in here for architect fees for $5,000. How did that end up in the?
We allow
facade?
that as a part of the facade grant.
do you?
We've never had anybody take advantage of it because all the projects have been smaller, like a window or a door or things like that. But
Yeah.
it is an allowable expense.
The only reason I bring that up is I was talking to Ben this afternoon, and I was asking him how, you know, the checks get doled out, and then we have to go through as a city and validate bills and stuff like that. So there is some administrative costs that we incur, pay out to that. And how do we get reimbursed for our staff's time in doing that, when in fact, there's a $5,000 thing that we're handing it over to him, when in fact, you think we'd be charging them for city services that we're doing, and that was my only concern.
People would just like to request the administrative fee more in their grant request. So if we charge $2,000 for our time, the request would be $2,000 higher to then just send some gaming
You're right.
funds our way.
That's
Yeah.
the shell game, right?
Yeah, right.
This comes out of this pocket or that pocket?
I just wanted to make one point, Mayor, that we actually have a gaming fund balance that's available, and I want to say it's $700,000 or more. So if he brought us all these receipts and we paid that out, that would just lower the fund balance by a couple $100,000.
Are you guys gonna have gaming in the facility there?
Please no.
Don't even go there.
Just curious.
Don't even go there.
Look, there's no available gaming license.
Gaming
So-
came up so often.
There's a
I was
cap.
like, all right. I take that back.
Steve just lost out.
Kathy, please strike that from me.
Another thing that we haven't talked about is there's going to be sales tax that's generated from this project, and this project is going to have a dramatic spillover into all of the other businesses downtown. If you've got three wedding events going on a weekend with 200 people at each one, a lot of those people are going to be spending their money here, but a lot of them are going to be going to other businesses before and after their events, and every other business in downtown is gonna see.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, your
Do you
building
know
is
impact?
beautiful. The vision in there, unfortunately, every stone you unturned, something else comes up, and I get it, especially in an old building like that. So I think ultimately, that's gonna be kind of the cornerstone for downtown Lockport, and I thank you and your family for investing here in Lockport. So it'll, you know, it's a tough road to get to, but I think, you know,
I didn't buy the tickets, lottery ticket.
Yeah, I don't think anybody up here is not excited about the project and the prospect of it. And I think it's just the size of the grant, right? We're looking at like.
It's bigger than what we're used to.
Yeah. Well, right. And
This is a project that's bigger than we're used to.
Yeah, and a few weeks ago, we shot one down that was 20% of this, right? For the Moose. And this is another kind of operating question. Building gets finished. Obviously, you guys want tenants in there day one. The occupancy permit, does that follow on, like, if I own the building, would I get the occupancy permit the day before my people moved in? Or
Once,
would I get it once the building was completed?
once they alert us that all the construction is done,
And
they
completed.
request a final inspection. Our inspectors will go in, inspect the building. Once they give everything the check, they can come pick up an occupancy permit, regardless of whether anybody's moving in a day or a month or a year or 5 years.
Yeah.
And they have business lined up, subject to that
Right.
occupancy.
Or not at all.
Are you done? You got more questions?
I don't think so. Maybe later.
Because the
What-
tenants that we're working with, you know, they wanna, as we work, they wanna work as well because that's their design, that's what they wanna do. They wanna build those, that wall that way, they wanna bathrooms to be that way with the color tiles, that's not us, that's up to them. You know, so that's why we are looking for them and we already have a couple of them that we're talking, so it's their design, you know? So we're working like a team.
So some of the numbers on the bid are estimates, because you don't know what your ultimate client wants. Because they may say, these toilets must be gold, you know, and then that cost, right, that cost bumps up.
Different numbers. So they will build out all of their improvements and white box the space. And then if they get the banquet provider or whatever, he's going to come in with his own architect and drawings and budget and costs and do his fit outs.
Well, then, so
And
then
that's their money.
furniture on here is incorrect then.
But I think like, and this is where I think it's maybe there's been some confusion. I think that those numbers were there just for transparency and just to show like, look, this, by the way, this is what it's costing. But what we're asking for is facade money. So we're not asking for furniture money. And I think maybe that's why there was some confusion up here for some, I guess the way it played out that way. But
So, let's see, the items that are highlighted in yellow, if you did it the same way, those are, if you look at the foot down,
So I changed all that.
The furniture though, and restaurant interior.
Those are outside of the facade grant,
Right.
those aren't
Yeah.
part of it.
Right.
if I
So,
could say, on the form that I gave to Lance, we highlighted some items in blue. Those were items that are part of exterior facade grant applications. On my Excel spreadsheet, I highlighted some items in yellow. Furniture is one of them, some of the interior build-outs or others. Those were all footnoted as items that would very likely be all or a portion of the tenant's responsibility. So those numbers wouldn't necessarily be
So that's not part of this budget. So those are,
this construction cost.
Right. I'm
They
just-
would be construction
There-
costs
there
that are
was
part of the whole
confusion.
project,
with the way this is out.
but some of those costs would be incurred by the tenants.
so the only thing that, for the purposes of the grant, are under consideration are the items highlighted in blue and the 2 items highlighted in yellow. The yellow ones are the sprinkler system and the fire alarm. The blue items are only on the exterior of the building. This has nothing to do with the interior of the building.
Fire alarm and the sprinkler system is not part of this.
It's a separate grant, the code compliance grant.
Which they've already received or you're
No,
going to add?
that's a part of this request.
Oh, it is part of still, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, both of those say code compliance grant in the.
Yes.
Would you give me a little clarification on a comment you made earlier, where you said the funding is for just the exterior, we just want the buildings to look nice, we don't care if there's occupancy? I totally disagree with that. If that building sits empty for 5 years and it's pretty, that doesn't do anything for me. So why isn't this funding based on occupancy? I'm confused by that.
Because we could
still
be
get
in
our
a,
money.
we could be in a recession and people aren't looking to expand. We could be in a place where nobody's looking for 4,000 square feet of space. Everybody's looking for 1,000 square feet of space. I mean, there could be all kinds of reasons why somebody wouldn't be ready at that moment to occupy it immediately. I mean, obviously, the goal of anything is to occupy it, but we don't offer a grant for tenant fit-outs, which is something that we could certainly consider that may induce a tenant to want to occupy a space. If we wanted to set up a grant that said, hey, we'll fund $15,000 a year fit-out spaces, but for the facade grant component, the exterior of the building, it's to improve the exterior of the building. I can't guarantee you that it's going to be occupied by a restaurant within a month, 2 months, a year after they finish the exterior, but in an effort to get it to a point where it can attract somebody to occupy it, the exterior needs to be cleaned up. And so the occupancy of the space versus the cleanup of the exterior, they're to a degree separate, but you can't do one without the other. Like, you're not going to attract a restaurant to what it used to look like on the picture on the left. That's not going to attract some cool, hip downtown restaurant that we all want. But the building on the right, because of the improvements that have been made, both interior and exterior, have a vastly better shot at attracting a tenant. So yes, I mean, I want every building to be occupied, and we're blessed to be able to have a very high occupancy downtown, but I can't guarantee it because we give somebody a facade grant.
Yeah, and this isn't the case, but my problem is that if you give somebody money for a facade grant and then a lot more than that we have in the past, then all of a sudden, if they don't like a tenant who wants to pay $1,000 a month rent compared to a guy who, he says, no, I'm going to hold off because I want a $2,000. It's like, it's not our job to do the business, but I would want occupancy instead of a pretty building. So
I'm sure they're going to want occupancy.
Yeah,
They got to pay that tax bill.
They can't make their own money back if they don't get somebody to occupy the space. So, their investment is based on getting some return on that investment. Otherwise, they'd never make the investment to begin with.
Okay. Well, is there anything else? Are we good with you guys want to do consent? Do you want to do action? What do you want to do?
Just back up one second.
Sorry.
Okay, the elevator and the demolition, that was not a grant, that was something else then? Okay. Go ahead.
You guys, if there's no further questions, there is, please continue, but if not, you guys want to do consent, you guys want to do an action?
Yes. I'm okay for consent, but I'm at.
Is there any people that want to do action?
I got my questions answered.
Then we're okay with the consent?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll put it on for consent, thank you. All right, yes, thank you again, and it's a beautiful job, and thank you for investing in town. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, my friends, let me tell you something, man, we really feel blessed that these are the kind of things that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, next, PW1, Civil Tech?
Yes, PW-1, thank you, Mayor. We do have one item on the agenda this evening. It is for our 2024 road program. This 2024 road program will include our resurfacing, our sidewalk, pavement striping, and crack filling, and this will include all of our design and construction engineering services. Each project will be bid independently, so each project will be bid separately. The city budgeted $563,000, and the ask is for $466,412.80. The map that is shown on your screen now, this shows our resurfacing projects. So this year, what we have put together is a $3.5 million construction cost for resurfacing only. What you can see here is the major items are going to be Gauger. We do have a little bit down on State Street, those little kind of dots that you see, those are from about 4th Street, 3rd Street, up to 8th Street, 7th Street on the west side of the road, west side of State. We've got Thornton in there. We do have a few subdivisions, as you can see, throughout the city as well. So again, this year what we're looking at, Edelman, which is one that will be a significant improvement. I know that was, all of these roads are in dire need, but Edelman, I know with the construction traffic and the impacts on the traffic that gets, that's a very nice improvement. So this evening we would be asking for council's consideration to approve resolution 23-113 in the amount of $466,412.80 to move forward with Civil Tech for the 2024 road program, engineering and construction services. And I would ask for council's consideration for consent or action at our next meeting.
So moved.
Questions, thoughts, concerns?
Brent, you said that number came in way below the other one, right? The budgeted number that you had was
Yep.
higher than this one here.
That is correct, about 90, 97, 96, yeah, under.
What's the budget for the actually work construction?
The resurfacing is $3.5 million in capital, and then the others are various from $50,000. I think our sidewalk program, I want to say, is around they're all in that $50,000 to $75,000 range total. So total, this work is about $4 million in work, just under $4 million in work.
So is that the going rate for engineering now, about 10 to 15% or something?
Engineering and construction.
Engineering.
So this is observation as well. So this is the entire thing. We're coming to council right now to take care of the design, bidding, and all of the observation for all of these projects.
Thanks.
Brent, is there a reason why a senior, what's a res engineer? Is it residential?
Senior resident?
Resident
Yes.
engineer?
Yeah.
Is there a reason why all of the on-site hours are a senior resident engineer instead of a resident engineer? Like there's 0 hours for like a normal engineer to be.
Yes, we have, one of the things that we like to do is we like to vet who we're going to get, and we like to make sure that we're getting the person that's going to work best for the
We
city.
don't like John?
Well, we like a specific individual, and
Yeah?
so that's
And it's
honestly.
worth the extra
It is, yes.
money for it.
Yes.
And is there a way to give or to get a vehicle for them to use for doing this supervision? I mean, like, we're going to be buying a cheap car, but still a car. Like, it's $16,000.
How about one of those cars?
Sonny doesn't want to buy a car, I see. But like, it's a lot of money. Like, can we?
It is.
Are there other ways to pay for it, like mileage or?
You know, it is, but I think also for us, if we were to provide them a vehicle, you know, there's wear and tear, there's insurance costs, there's costs to us doing this as well. So I know it's based on 60 cents or, you know, give or take the IRS current rate is what they allow. So.
But that's like more like just a daily rate that they throw.
It is a daily rate.
On site, it'll take care of the mileage, it'll take care of the payment.
That's
it'll
exactly
take care
what
of
it is, correct.
Gravy for us because it's way more than we should be, way more than we have to pay if you're civil tech.
Yes.
Like, it's a good amount of money. All right. Have we ever looked at other ways for them to bid that?
Say that again?
Have we ever looked at other ways for them to bid it, whether it just be mileage or do we not get down to the weeds? I know that this is like
yeah,
nickels and dimes, but I wanted to at least ask the questions. And
I have not. Certainly, you know, something in the future that we can look at, looking at mileage versus a day rate versus, you know, there's certainly options. And location, where somebody's coming from, where that individual lives, resides, you know, all those things do play a part, so, yeah.
All right, thanks.
Any further questions? You guys good with consent?
Yep.
Okay, consent it is. And anything else? Any new business? All good? All right, friends, thanks a bunch. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Looks like Joanne and Pat, I think. All in favor? All right.